Hello, my name is Patrice Lawrence, and I'll be reading my story called, to remember the name of my story, Roll of Honour. It's from this anthology, and it's an anthology where we are asked to write the backstory of characters from Alice in Wonderland. And when I told my daughter, she said, "You're going to write the flamingos, aren't you?" I said, "No, I'm going to write the hedgehogs." So here we go. Dear Diary, you now belong to me. I've written my name, Honor, across your front in case you forget. You are the last diary that Nana's ever going to get me. She says that time is a habit of running away from her, and all that chasing diaries up and down the street is making her joints hurt. Luckily, you're quite a tame diary and happy for me to write in you. Please don't close your pages too quickly. I've got a fresh bottle of ink and I'm using my best quill. I don't want everything to smudge. I'm going to start by telling you about my family. We are the Rolls. I live with my mum, dad, my nana, and most of my brothers and sisters. My baby brothers are called Tucken and Rocken. My older brother, Cheese, left the nest last month. He's on a nap here, trying out new hibernation spots across Wonderland. I share a bedroom with my older sister, Spring. If sharing a bedroom means I get a patch about the size of Tucken's nose, while Spring takes over the rest of it. And there's me, of course. I'm Honor Roll. We live along high hedges with an array of other hedgehogs and curious animals. Mr. Simeon, our neighbour on the right, is a skink. He does house repairs around Wonderland with his best friend Bill. They're usually over at the Duchess's mansion because the cook's got a bit of a temper and keeps breaking things. Mr. Simeon's granddaughter, Taliqua, is in my class at school. The first time I met her, she stuck her tongue out at me. I almost rolled on the spot. Her tongue's blue. She's not as weird as her friend Gertrude, though. She's a gecko and licks her own eyeballs. High Hedges is a long street on the top of a hill with fields sloping down either side. Rocken and Tucken's bedroom is at the back of the nest, and all the fields you can see out the window belong to the Queen of Hearts. Mine and Spring's room looks out over the Duchess's fields, right down to her pepper orchard at the bottom. The Queen and the Duchess are always arguing. Nana says that they've been like that for as long as she can remember. Luckily, they haven't had a battle since I've been born. I'm glad of that. High Hedges would be right in the middle of it. But that's enough about my family and my home. There's something important happening this week. It's Wonderland's spiky animal tryouts. Yes, the Sats. In Teardrop Bay, the urchins are learning their quadrilles to see who will get to dance with the turtles. Down past the Queen's Palace in Wellington Deep, the spiny mice are running tale-telling competitions to see who can tell the most boring story. Last year, the winner was so boring that the dormouse who was judging it fell asleep and never properly woke up. We hedgehogs are trying out for the Queen of Hearts croquet game. The Queen's croquet games are special. The mallets are elite fighter flamingos from the Queen's private flock. The hoops are soldiers who keep shuffling about. We are the balls. It's a long-standing tradition that a member of the Roll family is always selected for the top team. When Mum and Dad were hoglets, they were part of the High Hedges Sonic Six, famous for their speed and swerving skills. Last year, Spring won the Best Shot trophy, and the King of Hearts sent her flying through 3 hoops in a row. Even Cheese made it to the top team and managed to stop the Duchess from winning by spiking a hoop's ankle. The soldier had to go to first aid for a pastor. The Queen has to win. All hedgehogs know that, and so do the flamingos. That means the flamingos should pretend to hit us and trust us to roll the right way. Unfortunately, some flamingos really do like hitting us. Dad's final game was famous. A really grumpy flamingo called Fred was a mallet. Fred really hated hedgehogs. Mum told us it was horrible to watch. Fred would arch his neck back as far as possible and swing down beak first like he was trying to chop Dad in half. Dad always managed to get away, except that last time. One of his prickles got caught in a clump of mud and wouldn't budge. He just had to curl up as tightly as he could. Fred really wasn't expecting that. He was used to Dad rolling away at the last second. Fred slammed right into Dad. And Dad, well, he said he never knew flamingos could make sounds like that. They had to take Fred away on a stretcher. Mum reckoned he looked like a giant pink salt shaker. Fred retired, but he has a granddaughter called Indigo. She's playing in this year's competition. She hates hedgehogs as much as her granddad does. Please don't tell anyone, Diary, but I don't know if I want to try out for the Sats. I'm a bit scared. I'm not fast or brave or clever like everyone else in my family. I don't want to face a frumious flamingo looking for revenge. Dear Diary, thank you for opening up the right page. I'm really sorry I shut you in a drawer for the last couple of days. I've been trying to practice my croquet moves, but I'm still terrible. The Sats are tomorrow. After school today, I met up with my best friends, Duo and Duo Hartley. They're the Queen's butler's niece and nephew. They're also playing cards, so they know the deal. We found a spot near a deserted Bandersnatch burrow halfway down the slope between high hedges and a Duchess's pepper orchard. The fields near the pepper orchard can get a bit sneezy if the wind's blowing the wrong way. Today there was just a little tingle, but not much else. We started with the easy rolls. Duo and Duo took 3 steps away from each other, lifted their arms and leaned forward until they were palm to palm, like that. I practiced rolling towards them and going through, except I couldn't go through no matter how wide apart they were. As soon as I got to the top of the hill, I couldn't control how fast I came down again and was straight past the hoop every time. As I trundled up the hill for the 11th time, I heard a honk. Nice try, Spikehead. Indigo, the flamingo, swooped down and landed on the slope between me and the twins. She clapped her wings together slowly. I heard you rolls were supposed to be the best. You've definitely gone downhill. That's going to make my granddad so happy. Indigo swished her neck to and fro. You'll be pleased to know that I've been making my own preparations for the game. Indigo lunged forward and head-butted the ground. It made a loud thud. As she straightened up, the sun glinted off her head. She was wearing a pink crash helmet. Duo clapped her hand to her mouth. That's cheating. How can it be cheating? I belong to the Queen, and the Queen makes the rules. Indigo tapped the helmet with a wingtip. This is made from the strongest Jabberwocky claw. It's completely hedgehog-proof and very, very hard. I felt myself bristle. I still think it's cheating. Are you scared? Indigo hopped closer to me and pushed her beaky face close to mine. Because you should be. Indigo soared up and away towards the Queen of Hearts' palace. Well, Duo said. Her face was creased and red. That was just rude. I nodded, but I didn't feel like practicing anymore. Now I was even more scared than ever. Dear Diary, I'm sorry it's been 3 days. I haven't got bored and forgotten you like Nana said I would. Please believe me. So much has happened since the last time I wrote. Well, first I got through the Sats. I think I should feel happier about it than I do, but I'm not so sure because everyone got through. Madam Pierce, my teacher, says they need more hedgehogs this year because there's going to be an epic battle between the Queen and the Duchess. That's because of the second thing that happened. I was woken up the day after my rolling practice by a blast of trumpets. It sounded like they were coming from the pepper orchard. I peered out my window and then I sneezed so loud I woke up Spring. She rubbed her eyes and started sneezing too. It wasn't just us. It was Mum and Dad and little baby sneezes from Tucken and Rockin as well. We rushed outside. I thought I was still asleep because the pepper orchard wasn't at the bottom of the hill anymore. It was halfway up and moving closer to us. High hedges was filled with the sound of animals chattering and sneezing, trying to work out what was going on. Mr. Simeon emerged from his burrow. He slapped his hand to his forehead, making his eyes go. So it's really happening then. The animals stopped chattering, though none of us could stop sneezing. What do you mean, Mum asked. You know, I've been fixing things at the Duchess's house. Well, there I was, hammering in some brackets in the kitchen, when who should come on a visit? The Knave of Hearts. He acts a joker, but I've never trusted him. He hands the Duchess a scroll. The Duchess reads it, looks like she's going to explode, and then tears it into tiny pieces. I catch the knave as he's on his way out. This time the Queen said that if she wins, she's going to take the Duchess's house and pepper orchards as a prize. Mr. Simeon had to stop talking then because the sneezing was getting too loud. If she wins, Mum said, the Queen always wins. Exactly, Dad said. The pepper orchard had stopped moving. Suddenly, the hill was full of rabbits, all wearing tabards and carrying trumpets and banners decorated with the Queen's emblem, a big red nose. Order! The rabbits arranged themselves in 2 rows, trumpets hanging by their sides. A tall black rabbit stepped forward. My name is Steve, he said. I am the Duchess's chief trumpeter and best messenger. He took a scroll from an inside pocket of his tabard. I come with an important message from the Duchess. He held the scroll so close to his face, his whiskers made the parchment twitch. We all waited and tried to hold back our sneezes. Steve cleared his throat. Her right honourable Lady Duchess of Sternutation does hereby lay claim to allegiance to the curious creatures of High Hedge. It has come to the right honourable Lady Duchess's attention that the Queen of Hearts is a big scaredy cat cheat who's afraid of losing. This year the Duchess will win and calls upon every hedgehog in High Hedges to roll for her. He replaced the scroll in his secret pocket. Mr. Simeon scratched his head. You want us to help the Duchess stop the Queen winning? Steve nodded. Mum shook her head. Well, Steve, please tell the Duchess that we'd love to help, but we can't. The Queen has too much of a temper. We can't risk. She looked to see if Tucken and Rocken could hear. Our necks. There was a murmur of sneezy agreement. Steve turned to face the rabbits behind him. He waved his paw and then raced around to the back of the orchard. Steve blasted a note on his trumpet, and the rabbits started playing their instruments. The pepper trees shivered again and ambled towards us. A big sneeze started at the back of my nose and burst out. It wasn't just me. Mr. Simeon sneezed so hard I thought his eyes really were going to pop right out. Dad ushered the twins back to the nest. Steve lifted his arms and the trumpeter stopped. So did the pepper trees. We've been instructed to keep the pepper trees here, Steve said, until we have word from the Duchess that they can return. The sneezing was getting so bad that none of us could stay out anymore. Spring and I looked out of our bedroom window at the dark shapes of the trees. Don't worry about the Duchess, Spring said. The Queen always gets away. Just do what our family's always done. Roll for Queen and country. The Queen will make sure we're all right. Dear Diary, I didn't know that diaries could sneeze too. The pages are a bit damp now, which is making my writing smudgy, but I'll carry on. Today's a day of the croquet game. I wish it wasn't. Mum's made breakfast. It's snail porridge, my favourite. I'm not hungry. I poked my nose outside the door earlier, but I had to bring it inside again because of the pepper. Mr. Simeon was already up with his tapeworm measure, trying to work out if the trees had moved any closer overnight. The tapeworm kept sneezing and making Mr. Simeon even crosser. Okay, it's time to go. Wish me luck, diary. Later. Even as I'm writing this all down, it feels like a dream. But I was there, it really happened. As we were heading to the Queen's Palace, I still had no idea what I was going to do. Should I roll for the Duchess or for the Queen? The hedgehogs from the Told You Wood were wearing caps covered in hearts. So were the hedgehogs from the Royal Forest, of course. The Queen was going to win no matter what I did. I would do what the royals have always done. I'd make sure the Queen would win. I hadn't been to the Queen's Gardens before. Spring did warn me that it was a bit strange. There were fish in wigs and tailcoats, and even weirder, the Queen's roses leaked. I saw it with my own eyes. Little puddles of red around the bottom of the trees. I arrived just as the royal family's procession were marching through the main entrance. I was keeping an eye out for Indigo, but the game stewards, all club cards, sent the flamingos to one end of the field and us hedgehogs to the other. Honour! It was 2 voices, duo and duo. Guess what, Duo said? The Queen's locked the Duchess in her pepper cellar. You know what that means, don't you? The game's off? No, Duo said. The Queen's going to play against herself. And the Duchess is more furious than a bandersnatch with toothache, Duo added. We've still got the pepper orchard on our doorstep, I said, and it's going to be there forever unless the Duchess orders it to go. We couldn't stay in High Hedges. We'd have to move away from our cosy nest and all my friends. But what could I do? The game began. The club steward sent me to a hedge on the far side of the garden. I crouched down next to an abandoned spade sticking out of a hole. All the action was at the other end of the pitch, where the Queen had a crowd around her cheering at every move. It was a lot of cheering, because she was doing all the moves. So, you think you could hide, do you? A long shadow fell over me. I looked up. Inigo was perched on a spade. I'm not hiding, I said. I'm waiting to be played. Well, I'm ready to play. Inigo swished her head. Her pink helmet shone. Suddenly, she swung at me. I managed to swerve to my right and her beak plunged into the grass. She freed herself quickly. My name is Inigo Flamingo. Your dad quilled my grandfather. Prepare to fly. Inigo came at me again. I tucked and spun forward, landing just by her chest. She looped her neck around between her spindly legs. Her upside-down face grinned at me. She straightened up and flew off the handle, diving towards me. I moved quickly, but the wrong way. I plopped down into the hole. I was stuck. Really stuck. My prickles were wedged in the mud, just like Dad's. I couldn't move. Inigo drew herself up to her full height and tipped back her head. Her grin was so wide it made her beak look like it had been turned sideways. I closed my eyes. My name is Inigo Flamingo. Your dad called my grandfather. Prepare to honk. Got you. That wasn't Inigo's voice. I opened my eyes again. Inigo wasn't standing there anymore. She was under the arm of, well, I don't know whose arm it was. It belonged to a girl in a blue dress and a white apron. Inigo's beak fell open in surprise. The girl raised Inigo into the air. You're a very curious mallet, she said. That's a very curious ball. But everything is so different here. Inigo started wriggling, but it was too late. The girl lifted Inigo high, and I just had time to curl into the tightest ball before Inigo swung towards me. Then thwack! I really was flying. This is what I saw as I went spinning over the pitch. The girl in a blue dress, eyes wide as I spun away. 2 club stewards shuffling towards Inigo with a stretcher. A giant grinning cat's head hovering in the middle of the field. The Queen of Hearts nudging the Queen and pointing at me. The Queen's back as she bent over to take a shot. The Queen's back getting closer and closer and closer until I hit her. The Queen screamed, and suddenly we were flying together. My prickle stuck into the back of her dress. Her nose skimmed just above the ground as everyone in the pitch made way for us. Everyone that is, apart from the Duchess, who was rushing up the hill towards us with the executioner by her side. I later learned that she'd been freed to answer questions about the grinning cat's head. But that didn't matter now. What mattered was that she didn't get out the way. The Duchess's mouth dropped open in shock. For a second, I thought she was going to swallow me whole, but then a loud oof, the Queen thumped into her. Then the 3 of us were flying together, the Duchess whooshing backwards down the hill. I heard a shrill toot on a trumpet and then a clattering and shouting. Steve, the messenger rabbit, was waving his arms at us. When he saw we weren't stopping, he turned round and raced back to the Duchess's gardens, followed by his musicians, and the pepper trees were following, skidding back towards their home. My eyes, my nose, and even my ears were stinging with pepper as we flew down the hill after them. We were flying lower and lower until we finally landed, sliding down the grass. Well, not we. The Duchess was sliding backwards on her bottom, and the Queen was sliding on her stomach. I was still stuck to the Queen's back. We landed in a tangled heap against the orchard fence. The Queen gave an enormous sneeze, and I shot into the air and bounced along the grass and carried on rolling until, with a little plop, I dropped into the hollow by a bandersnatch burrow. Who did this to me? The Queen shrieked. How dare they interrupt my game? Off with their head. I decided that my head and I would stay where they were for a while. If your game isn't finished, the Queen said, that means no one's won. There was silence. I risked peeking over the top of the burrow. The Queen was frowning. I think you're right, she said grumpily, but next year, beware, I will win. She shook a mist of pepper out of her skirts and stomped sneezily back up the hill. I think it's time to go home, said a soft, meowy voice. The cat's head was hovering by the side of the Duchess. Slowly, more of its body appeared. Its paw patted the Duchess's back, and together they went through the gate to the orchard and closed it behind them. It may be my imagination, but I'm sure the cat's head turned towards me and winked. Dear Diary, I was exhausted after yesterday. and I fell asleep with my quill in my paw. Thank you for staying open on the right page. I'm going to put you back in the diary for a little bit, back in the drawer for a little bit, as all the curious animals and high hedges are throwing a tea party for me. And that's definitely not to be sneezed at. The end.